TenZ is a problem for Sentinels. How can he fix before 20? You mean an hour, 30-minute long video?
You've heard of TenZ. He's a fan favorite. He's got like 2 million subscribers on YouTube. And he's also not just a content creator. He's also one of the most long-standing players that we have in the Valorant scene. He's been playing since the very beginning when these first tournaments were happening in 2020. And I would hypothesize that one of the reasons that he's such a long-standing player is because of his brand, not because of his performance. And that's what this video is going to tackle. You look at the brand, it's undeniable. I mean, this is the Sentinels YouTube channel, and almost all of their top-performing videos, when you sort by popular, either have TenZ in the thumbnail somehow, or have, you know, TenZ's comms or the tournament where they won with TenZ. It's almost all TenZ focused. He's not terrible, of course, and I want to use this analogy, right, to talk about TenZ and his performance. If you had to pick between two runners, and they were both putting up the same times, and one of them had really good form, and one of them had really bad form, which
summaries in the last 3 minutes?
Which one would you want to coach or sign or whatever?
Is that true?
Well, ideally, you want to pick the person with the worst form, because once you fix that, then they're going to be blasting the other guy out of the park in terms of hasn't particularly optimized for. I think, in summary, having watched a shit ton of TenZ VODs and the fact that this video is like an hour and a half long, I would say if TenZ wants to be on a team that has a chance of making it to Masters tournaments and winning and going deep in these kind of big tournaments at a top tier 1 level, if TenZ wants to be a top tier 1 player, I think he needs specific positional coaching. He needs someone to do what I've done, go through his VODs, and then sit down and show him these moments and work on, like, what was going wrong here? What are you thinking in this situation? Positional coaching, improving him as a player, not just the team overall. He individually needs help and guidance. And I think also he needs a change of role. Nothing I watched with regards to his duelist play made me think that he's going to be a top-tier duelist in the next year. It just doesn't seem likely unless he puts in an enormous amount of effort and that same coaching during this offseason. But I think he's much more naturally suited to the KO, to a supportive role. But that will also require him to pick up a bunch of other agents. Alternatively, if he doesn't have the coaching, doesn't have the role change, doesn't have the work in the offseason to broaden his agent pool, he's going to have to ride the bench if orgs still want the brand value and also a championship contending roster. I hope that wasn't too long of a video. I hope you stayed with me through all of the examples that I was rattling through.
I'd like to see one of his examples and see what he points out.
Examples that you want a little bit more detail around. I kind of was throwing out some concepts that
Let's see this one.
You need to be aware of in order to understand some of those clips. So here's TenZ. He knows he's being pressured. Take a look at what's going on up here on the minimap. TenZ is running across, not particularly quickly, and now is thinking about the stairs push instead of trying to go to flood retake for quite a while. In the meantime, Zekken's under a huge amount of pressure. Sassy's trying to help out.
But he doesn't know what's going on in comms. I agree. I think that's something that Sideshow is aware that he doesn't know, and I'm hopeful that he factors that into his opinion. But let's see.
And TenZ, by the time he arrives, it's game over. If he hadn't spent those 3 seconds wondering, being inquisitive over towards stairs, and had just tried to path over here, he would have been in position to try and send a stun over to help, to try to wall out and get in and play off Sassy's flashes. And these tight timings, he just misses them all the time because he's a little passive. Let's take a look here as well.
This comment is so funny.
Defense, because this was molding me to no end. This is one of the reasons why I was saying that his ascent was just dreadful when he played Jett. And to be fair,
he did say at the beginning that any clip that looks like comms issues was ignored in this review. Oh, I see. So he didn't mention it.
This is the version. This is the one VOD on Ascent where I had to go back in time to when Def was on the roster instead of Marved. But I don't think that it's Def's fault that TenZ is playing like this, because TenZ should absolutely know better. So in this situation, look at his positioning. It's 1:39 on the clock. The attacking team has to go past this choke point and has to face on this choke point before TenZ is being useful at all. That's at least 15 seconds if Sassy and Def are going to be fighting A main, as it looks like they're positioned to do, and as they end up doing, and as they're throwing the one way to do, you have at least 15 seconds to see if you can get a pick over towards here, or maybe even see if you can pick this, and you will still be able to rotate up to A heaven in time. before anything is being asked of you. So just way, way too passive in terms of his positioning on the defense, to the point where he just ends up being, it's just AFK. He's just literally AFK watching Sassy and Def fight over an area that he has. In fact, he wants them to lose that area of the map so that he can end up being.
We have to get Sideshow and even Bren on a watch party. It would be cool to hear their live analysis
Useful with his operator
alongside myself.
It's just nonsense gameplay. It doesn't make any sense. You have to be able to fight over early choke points in order to.
I think
draw
it's
out
valid at
utility.
this point.
And if he's posted up towards A main, he's still going to be able to back off and pick towards Dice, for example. If he's posted towards Cat, he's going to be able to get back over towards Heaven, as he would be if he was playing towards mid as well, I think.
What do you mean they cast? Yeah, but not every game.
To exit out the other way. Definitely much better ways of playing.
This one is good, but the other one is so mid. Yeah, where he's talking about holding stairs. It's kind of hard to say that. Like, what if his teammates were saying that, hey, they could be stairs, there's a guy stairs, or there could be a guy stairs, really. So I do agree that he could have got there sooner to flood, but I think that one is like, maybe he arguably sticked around, but even if he got there 1 or 2 seconds sooner, hard to say if it would have made a big difference, but there is a chance it could have.
This. And just to show you another example of what happens when he goes over and plays mid.
I don't think he's wrong,
here's
though.
TenZ playing in mid, upping on this line, and before he even sees any contact whatsoever, I promise you that's the beginning of the round. This is the beginning of the round. Doesn't even wait to pick it.
I do this sometimes. And I almost feel like when I'm playing really poorly, I notice this about myself, is that I will, and I think it's overthinking, by the way, for myself is what I noticed, is that I'll preemptively be worried about something that could potentially happen, like a dart or a dagger, but to the extreme of like myself overthinking it, where sometimes I need to just play situationally and let it happen, then react, opposed to trying to react preemptively, because I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around it, because I feel like sometimes reacting preemptively is good, but sometimes when you overdo it and you don't play the situations that are given to you, then it like fucks you over, if that makes sense.
Anything, he just backs off immediately. And now, because he's lost catwalk information, because he's allowed all of these players to start walking down the map, Sassy and Def's play into A main here, there's a massive hole. This is just such an enormous hole in what's going on, because Sassy and Def are trying to fight aggro over A main, assuming that TenZ is going to be on this line, or at least trying to contest this line.
I mean, they're probably aware of the gap, right?
Filling this in. And instead, I mean, you can watch what happens. The minimap will tell you more than the actual game will. But he dodges the knife, and now this hole is just enormous.
Yeah, to rotate back to B and then go spawn. Yeah, I hear him on that. Because also, not only is KJ already at spawn, so it's like we're in the same spot now. This gap is open, which is not terrible. As long as we know, and maybe we're playing for something, we have the wrong read.
Enormous.
But yeah,
absolutely enormous.
I agree. It's not
and he
ideal.
doesn't even think to fill it. There's no call whatsoever from anybody to fill it. Zekken starts to rotate off the site as TenZ tries to.
This is weird, yeah.
Main,
this is
but
weird.
He doesn't have any utility to help him pick up B main either. You know, Zekken's still got drone here. Zekken's got recon. The turret isn't even facing down B main. They have no information.
They have no information, yeah.
These players could still be taking B main aggressively because TenZ doesn't even realize they walked down Cat. It's just all far too passive. And if TenZ wants to be able to find more value as an operator or as a defensive jet in general, then he needs to be applying pressure and pushing limits.
I don't think Sideshow's point of this video is to say TenZ is bad. I think he's just pointing out, he's trying to point out the flaws in his play that could make him better. Like, I don't think anyone thinks TenZ is bad. TenZ is obviously insane. And it's not necessarily 100% his fault, but I'm sure it's, you know, partially his fault as well, as also a part of the coaching staff, IGL, for not realizing and fixing these mistakes.